Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's video where you see the title. We're going to talk about how trauma might be the outlier or the indicating factor behind determining whether someone becomes successful in their life or not. Now, obviously, you can be successful whether you had a traumatized childhood or not. But something that I have realized and some of the conversations I've been having offline, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I want to start with like the last talk you've seen, whether it was a TED talk or you were at a conference and you have the keynote speaker, and one of the first things that they share is, grew up in a single parent household, grew up in the foster care system, saw their parents get divorced and how it changed them, bullied in school. There was always something that was almost like the inflection point to when they realized, oh, I need to go through life carrying the world on my shoulders because I have this chip on my shoulder because I felt like I was dealt an unfair card. And this is especially important for you if you feel like you've been struggling with your journey towards success or your path. And I want to speak to the people for a second who don't feel like they have any childhood trauma. So if we were to think about maybe the top 10, I don't know, traumas that you can experience as a child. I mean, there's bullying, there's raised in a single parent household, witnessing a parent go to jail, witnessing a parent's death, witnessing a friend or family death, obviously assault, sexual, physical, verbal abuse. Like there's a lot, okay? And if you think about your childhood in a high regard and you're like, actually, was raised in a two-parent household. I always could expect presents for Christmas. We never went without. The fridge was always full. I didn't enjoy school, but I had friends and did my work. Like, if that's your childhood and you currently, as an adult, can't figure out why you can't tap into this like ambitious side of you that is yearning for the next version, it might be because of that. And you can unpack this with your therapist later. Don't send her this video because she'll come for me. But if you want to take this to therapy, please do, because I feel like this is a necessary conversation. So there's a quote that says, the more healed you get, the less ambitious you become. And I hate it so much. I hate it so much, y'all, because it's so true. In my seasons where I am the most happy and fulfilled and relaxed and calm, and I feel like I'm healing, not healed, but healing, ain't no sight of work on my horizon. Because a lot of ambition is tied to the desire to prove people wrong, to fill a void that was missing for most of your life, to write a new story that's been maybe mostly written by trauma or pain. So when you are across the board, fulfilled, satisfied, happy, calm, rested, healing, ain't no reason to strive for more because life is good as it is. So I say that because there are seasons of my past where I had to gaslight myself into believing I was doing worse than I was. I'm talking, I was hiding money from myself to the point where I found money in a random bank account that I forgot that I opened. And I was like, how did this get here? And why didn't I invest this? I wasn't in that mindset yet of investing, but I was like, this money's just sitting here. And I forgot that it's mine. And I literally was trying to trick myself into thinking I had no money in my bank account. So my everyday bank account, I tried to keep it as low as possible because I needed to look at that and feel like, all right, Lois, let's go. You got something to prove. You got bills to pay. Meanwhile, everything's on auto pay. But I was realizing that a lot of my drive, ambition, and success comes from this deep, dark place from my childhood where I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I had to prove my parents wrong because I was chasing a path that was outside of our cultural and societal norms. And I, even to this day, I remember when I got to a level where I think I looked up, like, what is the highest paid doctor in America earn? And then I used that number as like, okay, that's what I need to make and show it to my mom. So I made that and I told her, I'm like, hey, so I currently make what the highest paid doctor in America makes. Like, are you now proud? And I remember that conversation because I recorded it. But it was like, Nigerian accent. Okay, well, you can still be, a lawyer if you want to. There was no, I don't know what I expected. Not a celebration, because Nigerian parents, it's not in our culture to show. Let me stop projecting. I don't know. Nigerian parents are hard to please. You will have straight A's on your progress report, and they'll be like, okay, you tried. And that word tried is like, it doesn't translate well because to try is like to do your best. But when you do your best and you get the best score, you expect kind of like an applause, like, oh, congratulations. You're waiting for the celebration. But with Nigerian parents, the celebration never really comes. The target just continues to move. And so it breeds this feeling of I'm not enough. What I do will never be enough. And that can turn into a really vicious cycle. And I, at some point, had to opt out. And for me, it was that moment where I didn't get the celebration that I felt like I was working 10 to 15 years for. Like all this time where I was trying to build a career that you couldn't Google. It didn't make sense. My personal brand was just an idea, but there was no income yet. I was just doing all of this to get to the point where there would be an inevitable celebration. And of course, I celebrated myself, but the one person that you want to please oftentimes is your parents. And so when I didn't get that celebration, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm done. I don't need this stress. And of course, I grieved and mourned the fact that, like, man, it's really not going to come unless I become a doctor or lawyer. Like, the celebration that I actually want won't come until it's not about the money. It's about the title and the prestige and the bragging rights back home in Nigeria. So yeah, once I opted out of that rat race, of course, it created a rift in our relationship, and we went many months, even years, without speaking because it became clear that the path that she had designated for me, because of her sacrifices to immigrate to the US and create a better life for her kids, like what I was doing just didn't match up and it didn't make sense. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do what makes me happy, what makes me fulfilled, and just live like that. And I go on to have, I think after that year, I think I have my breakout year. My best financial year was 2020. For a lot of people, I think on the internet, it was 2020 because of the volume of eyeballs. And 2021 was actually a really good year too, and 2022 as well. So I go on this like 3 to 5 year, yeah, because I would say the 2 years leading up to 2020 and the 2 years after 2020. So 5 years of just like, man, it's almost too easy. Like, and I say that hoping it doesn't come across as super privileged, but I was like, man, if you just post, you share your story, and you create something resourceful and helpful for people, eventually they will buy. So it felt like my content was just running laps around the internet for me. And all I had to do was show up, just be valuable, be consistent. And your people will find you. It's oversimplified, yes, but that was really my strategy. I was just really having fun with my content creation. I was trying out different formats of creativity, and I was just reaching the right people that were activated by my words and my presence. So yeah, sales came really easy, and it was very common for me to have 5-figure days, 6-figure weeks, 6-figure months. So yeah, all that said, I'm realizing I'm like, okay, another dollar is not motivating, another whatever. There is no financial goals that I have at this point in my life because I don't need that much. And I'm investing, I'm giving, I'm donating, but I'm like, I don't need that much for me. I'm an individual, single person. And at that point as well, paid for people's apartments, paid for people's student loans. Like I was very generous because I was like, God, clearly this ain't for me because this is too much. But yeah, then I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, if I want to do more than if I want to do more than just make money, like what else am I missing in my life? And so I started going on some solo adventures, I took about 8 months off of work. And then I told myself, okay, I'm going to just date because I don't think I've ever given a concerted effort into my love life. I was always kind of half in, half out. Or it was like I was yeah, actually, I would say half in, half out. Like I never really, well, one, I knew my husband wasn't going to be American. It's almost like because I knew that in advance, I almost like didn't try as hard as I could when I was in the US. So then I said, okay, this is kind of crazy, but I have this speaking engagement with GoPro in Switzerland. And, they booked my round trip flights, took care of all my expenses, and paid for my time. They're always really generous sponsors. And yeah, then I remember the couple days beforehand, well, we had went bungee jumping. Lord, okay, I don't want to get too much off track, but went bungee jumping, and I remember getting to the top of the cliff, and I was like, you know what? This is a man-made harness, and I might die. I really might die. And I was like, but you know what? I've done enough. I feel good about I even Larissa WLC on Instagram. I even, we jokingly shot like my farewell video on her GoPro. I was like, girl, if I don't make it, this is my last video to the world. She's like, no, why would you say it? I'm like, girl, just start recording. We always, you never know. I get to the cliff and I don't look down, which is again, you do not look down. If you ever want to do bungee jumping, sky, like just don't look down because your mind is a powerful tool, organ, resource. You will completely psych yourself out of it. So I just looked at the sky and I was like, it's a beautiful day. And I'm just waiting on her countdown. And crazy enough, she pushes people off because when it gets to 3, 2, 1, so many people back away and they get nervous. And she was like, we have we run an efficient system over here. So if you made it to the ledge and you got the harness on, you're jumping. So I knew at that point, I'm like, let me just look up until I hear one. And so 3, 2, 1, videos on Instagram and TikTok. But she pushes me, and I just remember this feeling of like, oh, it's like it's about to happen, but you don't think it's gonna happen. You just hope that like lightning strikes and you got to call it off. Oh, Lord, I let out I screamed almost immediately because I was like there was immediate regret, but then I also realized I'm like, well, I've lived a good life. And then as soon as she pushes me, I'm like, but I haven't found love. And then plummet. So it's incredibly climactic, anticlimactic. Because now I'm like mourning. I'm like, yeah, I haven't found love, but dang it, I might die now. So it felt like the longest, I think it was like a 9-second free fall. Ooh, and it's like a canyon swing. So once you get to the bottom, yeah, so it's a canyon swing more than a bungee jump. Instead of jumping, going up and down, which, ooh, that's the next level. This one swings you in between the canyon where there's like all these sharp rocks and water underneath you. So that in itself presents another type of danger. So yeah, I've realized I'm like, okay, I get to the bottom. I realize I'm alive. And in the video that I post, I'm just like crying because I'm realizing, number one, I keep screaming, I did it. I did it. I did it. And that was like me conquering a fear that I wouldn't have pursued unless the opportunity presented itself. And I think that's so much of what life looks like when it comes to love, our dreams, moving abroad. We don't actually pursue what we know what we want until the opportunity presents itself. And so here I was, you know, flued out by GoPro doing this canyon swing activity, not because I chose to, but because they signed me up for it. Even though I was a speaker and moderator, they're like, no, Glow, you're a part of the event. And what I've always loved about GoPro and having worked with them for like 7 years, they're all about like living on the edge, but living. And so they always pushed me to, yeah, go beyond what I felt comfortable doing in my own cozy bubble. So yeah, y'all, I was a mess. I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm at the end, and I'm with a group of guys that are in like my shuttle, and I go before them because I'm like, if I hear them scream, it's gonna talk me out of it. So let me just go first. And so I'm sure the guys were like, dang, is it that bad? Based on glow screen, should we continue? But yeah, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. And I share all of that because I was almost like paralyzed for the next couple days. I could not get out of bed. I felt so much, I don't know what to call it, but it was an out of body experience, but then also this rebirth and awakening. And I was like, okay, Glow, well, you know your husband likely isn't American. And first of all, let's talk about how you don't trust men in the first place. Let's start there. So how can you expect to befriend and marry someone or a gender that you don't even trust? So there was work around just learning to trust men again because of the stories and probably the movies that I was consuming at the time around just this constant narrative of men being unfaithful, of men, being manipulative, narcissistic, gaslighting, all that stuff. So yeah, I reach out to the organizer and I'm like, hey, can I just with the flight, they gave me the details and I'm like, can I just arrange this myself? Like I'll cancel it and I'll use the credit to book my flight when I'm ready. But I'm like, I'm not ready to leave tomorrow. Like I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not ready. And so, yeah, she was like, yeah, of course, sure. And so that was great because it gave me flexibility to just like rebook with the flight credit whenever I was ready to go back to the US, which was like 4 or 5 weeks later. Ain't that crazy? So then I decided to get a Eurail pass, which is like a 30-day pass through trains where you can access, I think it's up to 28 European countries. And yeah, it just gives you access to ride any trains that interconnect between any of them. So I believe I started in Switzerland and then I went down to Germany and then Slovenia and then over to Hungary and then Serbia and then Macedonia and then Greece. But just completely solo travel. All I had was a carry-on. And yeah, just kind of winging it. And in each of these countries and some of the cities, what I would do is when I downloaded the dating apps, there's like a feature where you can say that you're traveling, and so you can put it to a different city than where you actually are. So if I was leaving Zurich, Switzerland, I would say that I was in Munich, Germany, and I would do that about 2 to 3 days before I actually arrived to Munich. That way, I could arrange like 2 to 3 coffee dates before I actually got to the city. So I'm not spending my day in the city swiping and looking for matches. It's like, okay, I'm arriving, landing, and ready to like actively go out and meet people. And I was very clear in my profile. Obviously, some men will ignore it, but very clear that I was only looking for a casual conversation. I wasn't looking to be wined and dined. I wasn't looking for anything fancy. Often it was coffees, walks by the beach, walks around the city, going on a bike in the park, like very like friendly stuff because I wanted to see a friendlier capacity of men because I think sometimes we see the worst side of them always being publicized, dramatized, over sensationalized, and we put that as the standard benchmark for every man that's out there. So yeah, a lot of my work was just healing the wounded parts of me, of all the men in my life who've hurt me, starting with my father and my first ex-boyfriend who cheated on me and got a woman pregnant at 18. So all of that was like work. And when you're single for most of your 20s, you also realize, oh dang, this is where people are also learning what it means to be a girlfriend. So I felt like I was out of practice. And I often tell my friends that I, okay, Glow, you know, I got matched with this person and I'm about to go on a date, but I don't like him. And I'm like, dating is not just about going out with people that you like. It's about going out with people that you can practice having conversations with about what you are, what you want, what you don't want. And oftentimes we don't actually know what we want until we're presented with the opportunity to express it. And so you don't want to wait for your husband to be able to verbalize what you want in a man. So going on dates is just practice. If you are being like intentional about it, because I do understand it can be emotionally exhausting and kind of scary just meeting strange men from the internet or from an app. So you want to have a good vetting process. It's a big reason why, like in my digital dating guide, it's not for sale anymore. I just archived it because I have too many things going on in my business. But if you leave a comment, I'll send you the link. But yeah, I was so clear about here are all the books I read, all the podcasts. Here was like how I made my profile. Here's, the what do you call it? It was like a passcode. I put like a password in each in my profile in each country so that they had to message me saying that secret code word. And if they didn't, I immediately rejected them. Because yes, it takes an extra 45 seconds, not even 30 seconds to read someone's profile. And my profile was very readable, very skimmable. So if you didn't catch the code word, you don't have the presence that I'm looking for to and you're probably not taking the time to actually swipe through people because I know men also just they swipe right on every woman just hoping for any match. Okay, so that was a tangent. And I don't know how we got here, but once I take a sip of this electrolyte drink, I'll come back. Mm. Okay, trauma and success. So once I realized that I was just missing love from my life, I met Stefan and we'll make another video about that whole how we met, how we started dating, because we actually started dating before we met, which is crazy. And with this is the age of catfish. So, but of course you can now video FaceTime, so it was easy. But okay, so in the maybe 18 months after meeting Stefan, it was like ambition who you couldn't get me to lift a finger. It was really hard to get back into a place of like, Glow, you have goals and Glow, you. And here's the thing as well, when you've gone so long in your life without a genuine match and a genuine connection where there's a best friendship and there's a romantic friendship and there's all of these things that, and you're building a life together. And we were traveling together and we created a company together. There were all of these factors that I wanted to pour into. So I think my business, not only could it afford to take, I could ease up off the pedal, but I think it was important for me to not be who I was as an individual and bring that into the relationship, but to create a new version of me that felt more harmonious across all areas. And even with each year, you're going to realize whether you're just in a relationship or in a marriage, you're going to realize that there's a different version of you that you're bringing into every year. And so that's a lot of the conversation we're having now around year 4. Who do we want to be in this next year? Because I find myself now getting back to 30-year-old Glow tactics and energy and playfulness and adventure, where because of a lot of grief and loss that he's experienced this year, I could see him kind of like grounding himself and stabilizing himself and being close to family and home, which is really important. And creating space for both of us to have what we need in this season is really important. So knowing that like solo travel was essentially my first love and I missed it a lot. And I got to do some of it this summer and it was really healing. And I just remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, I can still do this. I think sometimes we get married and you feel like you have to fuse and enmesh every aspect of your lives together. But I was like, oh no, solo travel is still available to married women or committed women or whatever. Like you don't have to do everything with your partner. And so once I like allowed myself to have that permission, I was like, oh, I can still live this life. And so that's been really freeing. And even like with choosing Bangkok as a base, he was very much like, you know what, wherever you choose, I'm happy to move along. There was a point where we were even entertaining Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Don't judge. It was a building, not the city. Okay. There was a gorgeous building that was going up, and I was like, oh, and for me, I was more about like the home, not so much the surroundings, which is crazy to think about because you can make a home in any surrounding. Yeah, so he was very on board with like, you don't need my input for our second base. Like, go ahead and choose what fulfills you because I know that that place is going to be your safe haven as well. And so it's been so beautiful, like having that permission, but also creating that foundation because I'm like, yeah, that does feel good because so much of being in a relationship is compromise and there should be healthy compromise. But if everything becomes compromise, that's where resentment can grow. So I feel like in this search and in this process, I've been able to tap into like living by yourself as a woman over 30, top, top two, not two luxury in life. I just feel like living alone is just such a luxury. And it just, I don't know, oh my goodness, I forgot how much I miss this. And I love the feeling of like having adult sleepovers and stuff, but man, living alone is just, it's everything. And I just forgot at this level of peace and ease and fulfillment. I'm like, yeah, I need to keep this in our relationship because I don't want it to just be all or nothing. Okay. So in the relationship, realize that I lost my ambition, but also recognize that, oh, my ambition was replaced with safety. So much of what we are driven by is like these psychological triggers that we are not safe and we are not enough. So when you're in a relationship with someone who is validating you and is accepting every version of you and is loving you as you are, you don't have to work or earn or perform for love anymore. And that was like blew my mind. And there were times where I was like, no, this isn't real. No, this isn't. I've been taught that you audition for love constantly until death. Like you're never enough. You just have to keep performing. And I'm like, wait a minute. It doesn't have to be that toxic. So yeah, it's just beautiful what happens that way. Okay, so again, if you are someone with trauma in your childhood, you likely have an easier time putting your head down and getting to work on your ideas. Not to say it's going to guarantee you success, but my goodness, if you put your head down long enough and you stay persistent enough and innovative enough, success is guaranteed to find you. And whether you look at, Alex Hormozy or Oprah Winfrey, you have these people who have built these 9 and 10 figure businesses, like practically billion-dollar empires, because of like such deep-rooted childhood trauma that they worked through and navigated. And when I look at success and successful people, it's you can't be normal. A lot of the path to success is a level of obsession that healthy people should not embody. You should not be thinking about ideas, creativity, social media, tech, marketing all day, every day. It's not healthy. And yet, here we are. I realize that I can't turn that part of my brain off, but what I can do is allocate the ideas when they come. And so before I used to get so overwhelmed and overstimulated by all the things that my brain was ideating. And again, it's another component of ADHD is we are just patterns and ideas are abundant. And I used to feel like I needed to drop everything and like work on it in that moment, or else the idea would leave. But now I have a better system where let's not even call it a system. I just text it to myself. And then I have a reminder every Friday, like afternoon. I have a notification that says, check your texts. That's my system. So I dump my ideas in a text message chain to myself. And then every Friday, I read the chain and I pick the top three ideas and figure out which one actually makes sense to move forward with. And a lot of the ideation process and the visioning process and the dreaming process is a lot of fun because a- you get to create a reality that doesn't yet exist. You get to dream about ideas that haven't been brought to fruition. And I think that process is really beautiful and also really humbling. And most people, because of the idea of rejection or not being enough, they let their syndrome speak louder than their confidence and they never move forward with it. So I think that trauma, that early childhood trauma of being bullied, of being alone, of not feeling like enough, you've been able to tap into resilience before you should have even learned what that word meant. You were activating your resilience muscle at an age most people were just concerned with what stickers they wanted on their notebook. And that's really powerful. And so if you are someone that is struggling to find success no matter your age, realize it might be because you had a pretty good childhood, and that is not something to gloss over. There are many things that went right with you in your life and your circumstances early on, and that's a blessing. And I think maybe there's a different way to approach success or approach your dreams that builds on top of the foundation that other people didn't have. So if you know that you have a strong support system where you can call your parents and share ideas with them and they will champion it, y'all, most people don't have that. I have me, myself, and my journal for my ideas, okay? I could not call elders and tell them my ideas. You know, that just wasn't a possibility for me. There was no like support capital. Oh, maybe I could bar. No, it was figure it out or be broke. Figure it out or don't eat today. There's a level of resourcefulness that is bred in those seasons. I don't wish that on anyone, but I'm just trying to explain transparently why you might struggle with success. It's probably because your childhood was better than most. On the other side, if you traumatized and broken, girl, I'm kidding. I need you to know that that was also a gift. And your trauma created a version of you that is able to overcome more than most. And that in itself is also a gift. And because you've been through more than most people have, you also are a little bit more relatable. You could probably reach and, yeah, speak to more people because you have all these lanes that people can see themselves in. And maybe this is also an invitation to push yourself further than you've been pushing yourself because maybe you've had to work so hard at such an early age that now you don't have to work very hard at all. And so you've lost ambition because you realize success comes a little bit easier to you than it comes to other people. So that could be your invitation to dream a little bigger. All right, y'all. We just out here using our traumas and triggers to heal, but we're doing our best. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new here, we make videos every single day. I try to post it around 8 a.m. Eastern time every morning, so be sure to turn on your notifications. And yeah, if you're looking to go deeper with me, I have different types of options of ways that you can work with me, learn from me, hear from me, all the type of stuff. Check out here. And then yesterday's video, check it out here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Drama!